Paul. Here. Michael. Here. Nelms. Here. Sid. Here. Smith. Here. Chairman Jones.
Here. Okay, can we get approval of the minutes of January 10th? Motion by Katie. Second by Sarah. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Those, okay. I guess public comment. I'd like to keep it so briefly. Hopefully we get one person talking for the group if they can. 2 minutes.
Well, he's gonna do that now. I'm gonna just do it.
And yeah, no new testimony. Okay.
By that, he means, you know, we covered a lot of territory in the zoning board of appeals, and most of you were there. Really talking to the solar folks, not the wind folks right now. And it's improper and maybe illegal to enter new evidence at this stage. However, those things that were covered, and most of the stuff was covered, is entirely legitimate. And I got a letter from the pastor asking me to ask Gary for the floor.
Well, yeah. Now this is David, and he lives in right in front on the corner, and he and we kind of went over this. It's got everything in there. Well, I had one too. I've got a very short follow up on that.
Yeah.
Yes,
Name and address.
if you could stand up.
And then
so
stand up.
everybody
Did you
can
want to
hear.
go ahead and then
You
I'll
can each do it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
go ahead. Just,
You want me to go ahead and do my public comment?
well,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Name is David Spurlock. Address is 22310 Grossenbach Road. And I just want to say good evening to committee members and thank you for this opportunity to speak. I'm speaking to you this evening on behalf of the residents of Grossenbach Road about a proposed solar farm in the area. The Fond du Lac Park District Board signed a lease agreement back in July of last year that allows a third party to install and operate a solar farm on Park District property along Grossenbach Road. It is our understanding that this agreement was contingent on two primary items. Number one, approval in the change of zoning from R1 to A1, and number two, approval of a special use permit. At the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting last week, our case for denial of both of those requests was laid out with the focus on the negative aspects of the proposed solar farm. Ultimately, the Zoning Board of Appeals denied the special use permit and recommended denial of the zoning change. The denial of the special use permit effectively stops the solar farm project for now. However, we believe that if the requested zoning change from R1 to A1 is approved by Tazewell County, it would allow for either an appeal or a new special use permit to be requested. And with some of the recently enacted Illinois laws, this new request could effectively be decided by the state rather than Tazewell County. And we feel this is an unacceptable option as Springfield really has no understanding of our local area. The residents' opposition to the solar farm includes significant negative effects on local wildlife, destruction of the natural beauty of the area, negative effects on property values, and health and safety concerns, to name a few. The residents of Grossenbach Road believe control of land use should remain at the local level, not subject to the agenda of Springfield, and we urge you to deny this zoning change request. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I'm Gary Walsmith, and I live at 22219 Grossenbach. And I have the 20 acres that's adjoined to this property that I farm. And I had said that at the zoning board meeting that property will become unfarmable if this is granted because it'll become too small to be farmed. And it's a fairly small plot, even with but that would pretty much finish it for us, because I know that the people that farm it will not farm it at that size. And I just want a little bit of a thing, this is short. You've all read the arguments against the rezoning proposal that would forever change the neighborhood and destruction of the property values with an industrial-sized power facility. And what we fear the most is the land being rezoned from R1 to A1, which we and our local board members will have lost the ability to make decisions in the best interest of our community. The state of Illinois and an out-of-state corporation will be in charge of our future. That's our feelings.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Yes, Rick Joseph, I'm the attorney for the Fond du Lac Park District. We thank this land use committee for their consideration of this. It is true, the Fond du Lac Park District did enter into an agreement, solar zone, contingent upon the zoning and the special use. And the Fond du Lac Park District made that determination based upon its opinion as to what's in the best interest of the constituents of the Fond du Lac Park District as a whole, not simply those residents of Grossenbach Road. The Park District is represents constituents of the Fond du Lac Park District, just like the county board represents all of the constituents of Tazewell County. You do not make your decisions based upon what aspects there are for a particular or a small segment of individuals. Now, reasonable people can differ. We differ and disagree with the findings of the ZBA. We think that this property should be rezoned for this use. It allows the property to remain for the benefit of the Park District in the future when recreational needs in that area are necessary, and at the same time allows for the Park District to receive additional revenues, again, which better can be used for the betterment of the constituents of the Fond du Lac Park District as a whole. While we disagree, again, with the ZBA, and perhaps with some of the findings and comments from the Land Use Committee, we respect their opinion, but what the Park District does not agree to and agree upon was the negative comments made against the board of the Park District by indicating that the Park District was somehow attempting to circumvent or hide this from the individuals. The Fond du Lac Park District, again, followed the law. We entered into our agreement. We did not seek the approval of the residents of Grossenbach Road, just like I presume members of this county board have not put out for referendum or seeking approval as to what to do with the arcade building, for example. Park District represents the entire residents of the Fond du Lac Park District and made their decision and determination based upon what they believe to be in the best interest of the district. So again, we respect the findings and the decisions of this board, but we do not respect the disrespect shown for another governmental body. Thank you.
Thank you. Sure, go ahead.
I would like to just make a quick statement. It's Joe Mitchell, and 513 Bayview Drive, East Peoria, Illinois. I work at the church, 22648 Grossenbach Road. The biggest thing is this small section of road on Grossenbach Road is very unique. This is not like other roads or stretches. Areas, plots of land for a solar farm like this, even in the immediate area. People have talked about the fact that this area is a treasure. There's a reason why people have chosen to build their homes there. And I wasn't planning on speaking, but I just want to make comment that there is something special about this road. This solar farm absolutely does not belong there. It would be almost akin to taking a solar farm and lining Grandview Drive with these solar panels and blocking the views. One drive along Grossenbach Road would make it very clear to anybody that this absolutely does not belong there. It's not that we're against solar, we're just against putting this on this stretch of road.
Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none, we'll move right along. Okay, we get a motion to get LU-23-04 on the board. Motion by Russ, second by Jay.
Mr. Chairman, my motion would be on the rezoning case number 2303Z, to recommend to the Tazewell County Board denial of the rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions, concerns? Mark?
Well, I think that, the Fond du Lac Park District wants to do this, it's what they want best, what they feel is best for the Fond du Lac Park District. And, since they voted to do that, it's not really Solarstone, they wanna lease it to this company. And, I understand that everybody thinks their property is special. I think my property is special, some of the places I go. But, ultimately, to not change the zoning so they can get this done, that the park district can get this done, is just, it's zoning doing exactly what zoning was made to do. And that's put things, where the, certain demographics don't have to put up with it, they don't like it, they don't want it, they think their neighborhood's beautiful. So where's it gonna go? It's gonna go somewhere. Solarstone said this is the good place because they have a landowner willing to lease it. Those people are elected officials, they were elected, and that's a decision they made. It's also close enough to a substation that they can hook it up. So, where's this gonna go? In Bayview or some other, neighborhood where the demographics aren't the same? Probably. So we need to consider that. And I know the zoning board of appeals voted it down. It looks like the Tazewell County planner said it would be a good idea to change the zoning, and I think that's what we should do, is change the zoning to A1.
Okay, great.
I guess what's before us this evening is a zoning change. Not really a solar farm per se, because ZBA turned that down. ZBA turned down the solar farm unanimously and with a special use. I guess what we're here to decide is a R1 zoning, not the proper zoning in this area, and it should be A1. I contest that A1 would be spot zoning just for a means of something else. You look at the housing that was showed all around there, it does meet the true definition of R1, rural residential, the housing is around there. So to reverse this particular area out of R1 would be spot zoning, I believe. And I think that's the only thing before us tonight is the zoning request to go back from R1 to A1. ZBA turned down the special use. All we're here to discuss is the zoning change, and I think the zoning is properly there at R1, and doing anything different would be spot zoning it to something different.
Oh, Mr. Sin is exactly right. And the chairman of the ZBA is with us tonight. This is a little confusing for some of the folks in the room because there's ZBA and there's land use and there's a county board. Sometimes 3 bites at the apple like there is on rezoning. Only 1 bite at the apple on special use, and that authority rests with the zoning board of appeals, and they have so decided, as Mr. Sin just pointed out. But they voted unanimously also. All the members of the zoning board of appeals voted unanimously against both. And also, it was said before, but I'll say this again, because that's is consistent with the rules. That, I listened to every single witness. In fact, I was right in front of them. And nobody is against solar. In fact, a lot of people spoke and they were for solar. Just not in this terrible spot. They needed to find a place that would fit rather than in the middle of the damn neighborhood. Thank you.
Mark? We're not gonna get in a debate, so.
Yeah, I'm just saying it may be the perfect spot, but we have to rely on solar companies that know what they're doing, to put it there. And the solar company said, there's a substation that they can hook to. And sure, so
the idea that it's a terrible spot, I'm not sure, you know, with all due respect to Mr. Crawford, I'm not sure he understands exactly what the needs of a solar company are. And if we
I'm not here to represent the needs of a solar
if
company.
I could finish, sir. Thank you. We're here to change the zoning, that's the question. Should we vote on changing zoning? Yes, we should change it, to A1. And there may be a special use sometime, a request for a special use permit in the future. So, that's all I have.
Okay, Jay, did you have a comment? Good. Anybody else on the committee? Okay,
Roll call vote, please.
Crawford,
No. Or, I'm sorry, on my motion, yes.
No.
Yes to deny.
Question,
He's not, by the way, our attorney's not here tonight, so.
sorry, the question is, can we send, do we gotta vote on the positive
Let
motion?
me ask that to Jackie. Should we make the motion to approve it and then vote no? That's usually what we used to do, rather than my motion was to deny. So I wanna be consistent with what works with the lawyer, but he's not here
and
tonight.
he's not here. The findings are in the negative. So the motion would be to approve the findings as presented to you in the report in the negative.
So he will be correct.
Motion to deny would be consistent.
Okay,
Yes, please.
stand by my motion, so yes would be to deny.
Right.
Okay, you agree?
Yes.
Thank you. Now, I'm sorry, yes, my answer is yes.
yes,
Goddard,
No.
Hall,
Yes.
Kreibel,
Yes.
Nelms,
Yes.
Sin,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Joseph.
yes.
Motion to deny passes.
Okay.
We're recommending on, sorry.
Okay, that's that. Nothing in plats or subdivisions. No new business. Brings us to unfinished business. Can we, get a motion to get LU-22-05 on the floor?
So moved.
Jay, second by Sierra. Okay. Russ, you,
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, are you calling?
go ahead, yes.
The state of Illinois took an already complex situation and made it a lot worse. So before, we had sort of two things. We had the petition from the United Citizens of Tazewell County, UCTC, with what is commonly called now a text amendment, which did go to the zoning board of appeals, which did result in a negative vote. And then it came to the land use committee, and I made a motion to table it, and that passed unanimously. It was in the old board before the new members. So I knew that at some point, what would happen is, and then I also asked the administrator if she would contact an attorney who was known in this area and do some research on this so that we had all the advantages of all the law and the legal information. So we weren't just listening to wind farm companies. And she did that, she did a great job. And the department did. And then, this long story's almost over, and then they came back, the attorney came back that I had suggested with a recommendation, and I'm just gonna call it like I see it, because I speak for myself only, not the committee. It looked like the wind farm companies wrote the ordinance. It was not even-handed. all of the testimony that we'd had originally, many of you not only were here then, but you testified then, and several times since, was dismissed. It was like it wasn't listened to, or heard, or considered. And nobody asked for egregious things, they only asked for things like protection of residents, for their health and their safety. That's one of the reasons government exists, for God's sakes. And then, almost done, the state came in, and I was just talking to the administrator before we started. I'm really not sure what the state did. I don't think the state, the Senate and the House and the governor are sure what they did. I know they said that local government in this area of wind farms and solar doesn't count much. And they should count more. And I know that's, I totally disagree with that. I think it's exactly 100% wrong. But I think, I've been around a long time, and I've watched zoning for a long time. I've been on this committee since 1978. And I think that the way this is gonna work is the senators and the reps that voted for this, they're not sure how this is gonna work. They just sort of threw out their philosophy, which was heavily dependent upon lobbying by the wind farm companies. They were even against our moratorium, for God's sakes. In fact, they cited Tazewell County as the reason why they did what they did, which blows my mind. But anyway, and so I think the courts are gonna decide. I think there's gonna be lawsuits, and I think courts will decide on each piece. And with all due respect, Rick, but he's not here anymore. That means the only guys that are gonna get rich are the lawyers. And I'm used to saying, what do you got when you got sand up to here with a lawyer? Not enough sand. So my point is that we have a situation where, what do? I don't think we can pass what the state did, because I don't think that's gonna happen for maybe a year and a half or 2 years with court cases. So then we're left with the attorney that I recommended's recommendation, and I absolutely feel that's terrible. So at this time, if it's appropriate, we're looking at both of you, I'm gonna make a motion that we, as the Land Use Committee of the Tazewell County Board, recommend, because it's the board's decision, not ours, to the Tazewell County Board, that they approve the text ordinance of the United Citizens of Tazewell County as was presented to the Zoning Board of Appeals. That's my motion. Okay.
Anybody else have any comments? You want a motion now, Russ?
Yes, so we can have a discussion, even though I already did, sorry.
We have a second to his motion. Sarah?
Didn't we already have this on today? Oh, yeah, I don't know. She'll figure it
I
out.
thought I'd motion, she said.
You'll figure it out.
Get it on the table.
To discuss it, but it was never
Okay.
untabled such as we did before.
Well, we just untaped.
Right.
And what I know I'm asking you to be the parliamentarian, that was my job. But would you agree that we don't need a motion to take it off the table? We've just done it. We've done it without.
If that's what you're comfortable with.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that.
So do we need a motion to approve the text amendment?
Yeah, I just made that motion.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll second.
Well, Sarah second.
Oh, you already did?
So now we're in discussion.
This will put it up for vote. Greg,
Unless
you have,
there's more discussion.
yes, Greg, you have.
So, it's unfortunate this hasn't been voted on for 6-7 months, and I understand what the process was, and I wish we could have debated it right then and there. ZBA unanimously turned it down because it was probably too extreme. I know ours is too light. I think there could have been I don't know if there's any meeting in the middle. I think there's some meeting, there's some stuff that we could do, like make it similar to the McLean counties, which is a whole lot tougher than both of what ours it was and what ours is proposing. Like McLean's was a little stronger. But no matter what, we're probably gonna be doing is just grandstanding because to these people, because no matter what we approve, it's gonna go back to within whatever the 120 days starting when is gonna go back to whatever that was. So I guess I could just sit back and go along with everybody else, voted good, not get anybody mad at me. But ZBA turned it down 100%. It was too extreme by a lot of reasons that was coming in. I know ours is too easy. I think there's a meeting in the middle, but again, I don't know if that exercise is worthwhile to do until we understand what the state is. Our charge is within so many days is to meet the state. We could pass this, make everybody happy, but then we're gonna have to, in the time turn, do it the other way, so. Or we can come up with a compromise that probably what ZBA was recommending that we come, they felt it wasn't their department, and it isn't, to come up with something in the middle. They said it was too extreme, but they said it's the county board's job to come up with something. We attempted that, but it came back probably a little lean. So I'm not sure how, do we go through the exercise of coming up with something in the middle, knowing that even that's gonna be too extreme for what the state is, or do we just let this go, push this on a little bit to see if the state does do stuff. If they allow us to do more, I think we can do more, but, if we pass this, it's a kind of work, I'm not sure if it's a worthwhile pass. I mean, I think all we're doing is grandstanding, because I don't think it's the right thing to do, but we know if we pass it, it's gonna be the other anyhow, so I'm not sure if we're, I think there's a middle ground, but I don't know if it's worth the exercise to do it with the state the way it is. So I don't even know if this motion's even worth the paper of doing this right now.
I believe we should bring it to the full board and let them decide.
I agree with most of what Greg said. Except for the grandstanding part, I think that's our job as elected representatives of the people of Tazewell County. So I don't think we're grandstanding. If you mean because of what the state did, I understand what your motivation is, but I think the state grandstanded, not us. Okay, now, the other thing, Greg, I listened very carefully. In fact, I pushed the ZBA more than I usually do to get them to comment on what they thought were deficiencies in the United Citizens Tazewell County project. Not one of the members of ZBA responded to me except for Dwayne Lesson, the chairman. And Dwayne took it very seriously, and he gave me several items that he thought were a little, as the wind farm companies would say, we're gonna put us out of business, or we're not gonna be able to build a wind farm in Tazewell County as a result. What I would say to that is this: I still have those, I don't have those notes, I lost those notes. Dwayne someday's gonna give me another copy, I think, but I haven't got it yet. But I will say that, Greg, I'm very comfortable with the competency that we have in our land use and community development department. And I know that we're all gonna work with the constituents and listen. They're gonna get feedback on how this works. They're gonna get feedback from the wind farm companies as well. And this gal's not shy, and she's gonna come back to a land use meeting and recommend that we make any adjustments in this as we go forward. And just because I made the motion to approve all this doesn't mean I wouldn't agree to an adjustment where we have input that recommends we do that. So this is not in cement. It'll be sort of in cement until we change it. But Greg, I would encourage you, if you want to sit and take the documents, and it'll be a labor of love, but it's a lot of work. So I don't want to wait anymore. In fact, I'm guilty of sort of leading the wait part, and I feel bad about that. So I don't wanna wait anymore. But I will agree that if we have evidence that there's an area that needs modification, I think even most of the United Citizens of Tazewell County would agree. If there's something in there that needs modification, it's our job to do that. Okay.
In saying that, Jackie and her staff have worked very diligently on
Absolutely.
this, so I'd like to see what all is presented and move from there.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with Greg, we shouldn't vote on this, we shouldn't bring this. It doesn't align with anything, it's completely, to one side, and it's not representing all of the constituents of Tazewell County. It's a few very wealthy landowners, I think, that have brought that and can afford to do that, where most people cannot. We've already seen the Tazewell County planners, ordinance, the setbacks that went up to exactly the same as the state of Illinois, or almost exactly the same. So just, I don't know if you'd call it grandstanding like Greg said, it seems like grandstanding, or maybe there's a better word for that, but, it doesn't represent all the people of Tazewell County, we do, and, we can bring it to the board, I just don't think we should, I think we should, and I, just because there might be lawsuits, it doesn't matter, we would still have the same thing, we'd be voting on either this, or why don't we bring to the full county board the administration's view on this, what they want. That's all.
I could go along with that. Greg, did you have a comment?
Yeah, just, I mean, I was hoping to come to some agreement, but it seems like if I wasn't 100% with them, I was against them. I was willing to work with them, work with people, and we've been working, we've gotten a lot of the stuff, some of the stuff done, we've increased the 15 days to 45 days, we got the county board to vote, we got some other things, so we're working towards it. But if I don't agree with them 100%, I'm against them, and that kind of was a log jam. I wish we could. I think and I was there too, Rustin, and I talked to ZBA. It said it was our job to do our text amendment. It wasn't the ZBA's job to do the text amendment, it was our job. So they got the information, they got a lot of it, and it's there available and stuff like that. So I don't think if anybody sat through that they could truly say that they would not agree with the ZBA that it was extreme. I think that it was made so there wouldn't be any wind in Tazewell County. I think there's some spots where it could be. If they were wanting to wind in their area, kind of be like these people. Come talk about wind and solar or wind in their area. But it was enough to me, and the ZBA thought it too, that it was enough to take wind away from the whole county. So, as is, I don't think it's a proper, is proper, especially in light of the other so imminently coming. So I wish we could work together and come up with some compromise. Again, I don't know if it's worthwhile because of the state coming up. So I wish we could. And so I don't know what pushing this forward and let everybody vote on it's gonna do. Well, make anybody feel better, maybe. I don't know that it's gonna mean anything, and I don't know how we should proceed this to the board. Again, the board should have had it 6 months ago, but it hasn't. So I'm torn on this one.
Well, can I say something?
Yes.
We have to do something because there's just a 4-month moratorium in place, and it sounds like we've got a little while before the state decides what the heck they're doing with all this. So we do nothing, and then the windmill companies just get to come in and do whatever they want, and then they win? Or do we work on finding this compromise right now while we have the time, and hopefully we get some say further down the road once the state gets all this figured out? I don't think doing nothing is the right answer.
Can I talk now?
Yes, Jackie, go ahead.
To speak to what you just said, so we brought a staff proposal forward, like Russ said, is a little bit more in line with what the state had proposed.
Yeah, I think
There's
I read
some
that.
gray area, in there, such as the decommissioning and road use agreements that were already in there. Right now, we're working with the attorney that we consulted on just to make sure that we could still consider those viable options, to present as an amendment.
Mhm.
The intent is fully to have that for you all to look at next month. So even if this leaves committee and it goes to board for a full vote, and the board does vote to approve the amendments, we'll be right back here next month, basically undoing what was just done. I did also speak to the attorney today, he's not here, whether or not this was the proper way to do this, if it was the wish of the committee to untable it. He did say that it explicitly says that the county cannot adopt, anything that is more strict than what is in the statute, that was signed by the governor on the 27th of January. But that's completely at the discretion of the committee, obviously.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Any more comments, questions? Caden, you look like you're coming up with something. Okay,
At the end of the discussion, Mr. Chairman, I would ask for a roll call vote on this motion also.
we can do that right now.
So the motion is to recommend approval of the UCTC amendment, to the county board. Goddard,
I recommend to I vote to not recommend,
Okay.
sorry.
Hall,
Yes.
Kribel,
Yes.
Nelms,
Yes.
Sin, Smith. Yes. Crawford,
Yes.
Chairman Joseph.
No.
Recommend to approve.
Okay.
Passes.
Okay. That brings us to community development administrator. Jackie, do you have something for us?
In your packet are just the year-to-date, from this year and last year, fees and, permits by type. As you'll see from last year to this year, our permit, totals are up significantly, almost double. Fees are also significantly up by about $10,000 from the same time last year. Any questions?
Is that, what do you attribute that to, the post-COVID building or?
Really, that hasn't slowed down a whole lot. Oddly enough, when we say it every month, we do solar permits, residential, individual solar permits daily, and those are up significantly.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
One other question on, like you mentioned solar permits. I'm getting personally, solar companies contacting me, not about any of this, but to put solar panels on my personal home and save money on my Ameren bill.
Try it and let us
Do
know how it works.
we, I assume we stay silent as a governmental unit on whether that's a good or bad idea for citizens, or? I was just curious, I didn't respond to any of them, of course, but I am curious as to whether you really can save money or not.
Well, I'll talk to you when this meeting.
Okay, all right. Thanks.
Okay, that brings us to an end. Next meeting will be Tuesday, March 14th, 5:00 here.
Now I got my phone shut off.
Puts us in the recess. Thank you, everybody.
You know what? She told me you just push it in, but click it down.
Yeah, it slides up and down.
I got more about that phone.